Hey, Brooke.
Hi.
Okay, Brooke. So you just started a 1 year hypothetical, a 1 year engagement with a brand new client. Okay. And today's day one. Uh, Tell me who you are and tell me what a fractional CMO is and does in the first 90 days of that engagement.
Well, I'm Brooke Janousek. Thank you for having me. I am a two-time corporate dropout turned fractional CMO, and I work with startups, franchisors, and mid-market brands. And my goal is to turn their brand into a household name. And this isn't quite the hypothetical question for me because I am starting a new engagement right
Mm,
now as we're recording this. So I'm
mm,
in the thick of onboarding. And, fractional CMOs are highly experienced marketing executives that companies hire on a part
yeah.
time basis. And so, what I'm doing in these first 90 days, honestly, is I'm going in and I'm trying to understand every aspect of the business from start to finish. So, I believe marketing intersects with every department in that organization. So, I'm really trying to get under the hood, meet with the head of sales, meet with the head of product development, even HR, to understand how marketing can assist them and help things run more smoothly.
Okay. Jenna, hi.
Well, hi, I'm Jenna Lloyd, and I'm a fractional chief marketing officer, and I work in women's health. So I help founders to tell their story, to build their audiences, ultimately to get attention so that they can get their product and solution to the hands of women who need it most. And there's a lot of stigma in this category. So they
Yeah.
do have a lot of challenges. Their ads get banned, their content gets blocked, their accounts get suspended. So I help these founders to overcome those challenges. And in the first 90 days
Yeah.
of a appointment, what I typically find is there's one reason why a CEO or a founder has brought in a CMO, a fractional CMO, and that is because they want to accelerate growth. They want to acquire new customers at a rapid rate, or they want to bring on additional funding. And they're often doing hundreds of things. They have a lot of tasks in implementation. And so, what I try and do is come in and say, let's pause those 100 things and just focus on these core four elements. And those core four that I like to focus on is what are your goals? Like, where do you want to be in 90 days? Where do you want to be in 2 years? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? What's the big vision? I focus on who is your customer and why does she care about what you have to offer? And where else can she go and get it? What is the competitive landscape? And then I get into campaigns. What campaigns are you running? How are you generating cash into the business quickly? Do you have the basics right? And also, what is the opportunity for innovation? Where are you experimenting to unlock the next bucket load of cash? And finally, what are the holes, right? What capabilities or capacities don't exist in your business today, whether that is team, tools, technology, that is going to prevent you from realizing the success that you have. And that phase of my process takes about 30 days. It's called the diagnosis phase. And then on day 30, I'll sit down with the CEO and his or her team, and I will present the strategy. We sign that off, and then we get to the fun stuff, implementing the tactics which are going to help them realize that growth.
So imagine that I'm the CEO. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I likely had to sell this idea of putting aside some of my spend for a fractional CMO, right? I either had to convince myself or I had to convince a team or a board or something to, put aside and free up that cash, right? So, like, how do I get how do I squeeze every last penny of value of the, as far as I know, just 1 year that I'm going to have that fractional CMO?
Sure. Well, the first thing that CEO needs to do is hire the right person. Easier said than done. But marketing to me is a little bit like the medical profession. And this is not something we talk about often as marketers. But if I had a torn ACL, I wouldn't go to a heart surgeon, right?
Mm.
So, as a CEO, figure out what problem you're diagnosing and then find the professional that can treat that problem effectively. Now, I used to work for a guy called Richard Branson. I spent 10 years of my career working for Virgin. So many of your listeners will probably know this entrepreneur. He's pretty successful and well known. And he had many really good skills, but chief amongst them was self awareness. He knew what he was good at, but he also knew what he was not so good at. So he would have this saying of hire smart people and then get out their way. So after the CEO has hired the right person, the next thing I want her to do is to get out the way.
Right. Yeah.
Loosen the reins and let this person that you've brought on board get on with the job. Now, that is incumbent on the fractional CMO to communicate effectively so that they know what job it is that you're doing and that they can feel confident that you're doing that effectively. So those are my first two things. And then the final thing I would say to CEOs wanting to maximize value from this appointment is be courageous. Be prepared to learn fast, which is another way of saying fail quickly. But I don't really like failure because it's pretty risky. Nobody likes to fail, right? But we all love to learn. So let's be courageous. Let's make memorable marketing that is creative and that sticks in the hearts and minds of our customers. And we're not going to get everything right first time. So let's be honest about that. We're going to make mistakes. So let's learn from them and move forward. And then on a very practical level, don't tie me up in meetings that I don't need to be in, because that's the quickest way to burn through cash, having 10 people at a very senior level sitting for 3 hours talking in circles.
In all of my engagements, I have 0 post-paid customers. Everyone pays upfront.
Yeah.
Usually for sprints, the amount of time I spent in meetings with customers dropped by 99% as soon as I already had their money, and they didn't want me burning it off. Yeah. As opposed to just like figuring I'm not going to charge them for it when I finally invoice them. It's been wonderful. All right, Brooke, I want to invert that question a tiny bit. So let's think about it this way. What would you tell a CEO who comes to you and says, "Hey, Brooke, you've been in, worked as a fractional CMO for a bunch of companies now. You've seen what's good, what's bad. How do companies waste the money that they spend on their fractional CMO? What do they do that actually ends up costing money and wasting the fractional CMO's output or time? Or what do they not do that the CMO would have really benefited from? Mm-hmm. How do they waste the money?"
Yeah, I've actually had an experience like this in the last couple of years, and I think sometimes they think they're ready and they're not ready yet. And so what I mean by that is maybe they don't have the foundation in place from a marketing operations perspective. They won't have a CRM. They haven't really analyzed anything from a data perspective. They don't have some of the principles in place so that when I get in there, I'm spending most of my time setting that up and less of my time actually doing the strategy that you hired me for. So I think they need to be real honest with themselves is, are they ready for this? And also thinking about, again, are you willing to release, hold, and control of the reins? And a lot of founders that are self-funded, that's very difficult for them to do, which I understand because this is their baby. And a lot of them will go into marketing because that's something that's, quote, easy to control. But you have to be willing to say, okay, I'm ready to let go of the reins and I have all of these things in place. Now I'm ready to hire somebody that can actually be strategic versus doing some of those executional things that are fundamental that should already be in place.
Okay. So let's pull back a bit then. I'm still the CEO, but I'm looking at the company as a whole, and I'm also looking at the marketing team, right? The current, and that might not be very big. It might not have ever had any leadership at all. It might have only had maybe middle management or something. I'm looking at that marketing team. I'm looking at the marketing department. How is that team going to be different or ideally better at the end of this year of having you there?
Mm-hmm. Two things. One, I'm a big advocate of self-promotion, and I call it the subtle art of self-promotion. So I'm going to help your team understand how they can grow as an individual and therefore grow in the company. And so they're going to be asking to be part of cross-functional team projects. They're going to be asking for new opportunities to lead things or to observe. And so I really want to grow the confidence of that team. And then the second thing is also helping the team understand, kind of diagnosing, hey, marketing should be in that meeting, or marketing should be involved earlier in the process of product development. So we understand ultimately we have to create the message. Let's be there in the beginning. Let's see some of these testing results. And again, can we just be part of that cross-functional team? So helping them kind of see what are those clues that maybe marketing should be included earlier on in the process.
Okay. And Jenna, what do you think? How is that marketing team going to be? How is my marketing team going to be better, or at least different, at the end of your 12 months?
Well, before I was a marketer, Dean, I was a psychologist and a historian. So honestly, I love people and I love figuring out what motivates people and what makes them tick. So one of the ways a team I'm working with is going to be better is they'll have more self-awareness. I love using like strengths profile and skills matrix, things like the Colby test, to help people understand like where are their strengths, what are they passionate about, and then aligning those strengths and skill sets with the tasks that the company has to do, so that not only is the company successful, but they are successful as an individual on their own personal aspirations within the company, because everyone's employed, right? Because they have, yes, they want to make a positive contribution to the company, but they're also on their own personal trajectory. So I like to figure out what is their personal trajectory, help make them successful, because their success is my success as a fractional CMO. I'm not in the company very often, so I learned pretty early on, if I'm going to succeed, right, as someone who's in a company part-time on a project or interim basis, I need people in the organization who buy into my vision and are willing to enthusiastically execute it and advocate for it when I'm not around. So how I do that is to invest my time in them by teaching them. And I'm also really honest about what I don't know. So I really encourage a reverse mentoring perspective, so that they are also educating me on my blind spots and my biases. So it's a two-way sort of learning process. So we're both going to be better and stronger at the end of the engagement.
All right. So Jenna, your best friend comes to you and says, "Hey, Jenna, my kid graduated from college, just got a job in marketing at this company. Like they're the newest, most junior marketer in that company. The company's just brought in a fractional CMO. What do you think some good advice would be for that person about taking advantage of the next 12 months? Especially the first 90 days, but definitely like the 12 months. Or like you're basically talking to like the junior version of you from, I don't know, from right out of college. Like, what should you do with this opportunity while it exists?
I'm smiling from ear to ear, Dean, because I love this question. What I would say to them is the most important brand you are ever going to manage as a marketer is your own personal brand. And as a marketer, we understand what it takes to be effective. So the first thing I would tell that person to do is research, right? Understand who their customer is. So their customer is their new company, their customer is their new boss. So do your research. Learn all you can about that company and that customer, that boss that you're going to be working under. What makes them tick? Who do they read? Who are their gurus and their mentors? Like, what are they posting about on LinkedIn? Understand who they are, and then identify what are the problems they're going to have coming in as a fractional CMO, and how can you uniquely position yourself as the solution? So how can you help onboard them? How can you help them understand the company culture, the company objectives, the campaigns that are running, and ultimately, like, how do you position yourself? Like, what is it you want to be famous for? And then like advocating for that within you. Now that's a lot for a young person. I know I probably didn't have that foresight when I was 21 years old, right? I probably only just recently came around to appreciating personal branding and the impact that it can have. So yeah, if I could go back in time and tap my 20-year-old self on the shoulder, I'd be like, let's treat this like a campaign, but do that in an authentic way, because that can sound really manipulative and really so I would say do that in a natural way that plays to your strengths.
And Brooke, there's been a weird split in the timeline, and suddenly you're face to face with 22-year-old Brooke in 2024, just starting a career in marketing. There's a fractional CMO is going to be in place, maybe you, for the next 12 months. Like, how does that? What advice do you give that 22-year-old?
Observe everything that you can, ask to be part of everything that you can. So ask to be invited to meetings and say, hey, do you mind? Go to the VP of sales and say, hey, do you mind if I join this next meeting? I'll sit in the back and I'll, just observe, and then take notes and send an email to that VP of sales and say, these are some things I observed in the meeting. I have some questions. Can I follow up with you? You're going to be proactive. You're going to learn, and you're going to demonstrate that you have an eagerness to learn. And then likely in this situation, this junior person is not going to report to the fractional CMO, but I would encourage them also to ask for a skip level meeting and say, hey, once every month or once every other week, can I meet with you for half an hour? And then come to that meeting with specific questions. Don't expect that fractional CMO just to impart wisdom because they're busy and they're juggling a million other things. Come with some very deliberate questions about what you want to learn, and have the humility to admit that you don't know everything yet.
All right. So, Brooke, I've started asking people this question at the end of our process, and I struggle in not to be offensive when I ask it.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna see how this goes. Right. There are easier ways to make a living.
This is
Why do
true.
this? It is an enormously frustrating job much of the time. You have to admit that.
Yes.
So why do this job? Jenna's like, I got an answer for this damn question. Brooke, why do this job?
Yeah. So it was never on my roadmap for becoming a fractional CMO. I will
Sure.
just be outright and admit that.
Yeah.
And it was something that the stars aligned and an opportunity opened up. And so I walked through the door. And the reason why I keep coming back time and time again is the opportunity for me to help companies and individuals grow. I love to be part of something from the ground up. I love to help build something. And so that is fulfilling to me to be able to do that. And the variety of opportunities that come my way is also very intriguing to me. So whether instead of giving all of my time to one company, 40 plus hours a week, probably burning out on that, I get an opportunity to help multiple businesses. And it's just, to me, that is extremely rewarding.
Right. Jenna, how about you? Why for the name of God?
Why, the love of God, do I do this? For me, it's a very personal reason. I was in corporate life for 20 years. I sold mattresses and airlines and goodness knows what. But and then I was diagnosed with infertility. And I needed the spaciousness in my personal schedule to pursue the treatment that I needed to expand my family. And that wasn't going to come to me by staying in corporate life, working for 20-something-year-old tech guys who wanted me to be there 70, 80 hours a week. So I set up my fractional CMO so I could have the spaciousness and the flexibility I needed on a personal level to pursue that health journey. And in that time, I met a lot of women that were saying the same thing. Like, why did nobody tell me this about my menstrual health cycle, my fertility, my body sooner? Because it would have been such a big unlock. So I took that personal journey and this professional skill set I had to, get attention and build audiences and tell stories and say, well, let me now come up alongside founders in the women's health space who have products and solutions that women so desperately need and help them to get those solutions out into the marketplace quicker. So I do it out of just a personal desire to help women suffer less.
Yeah, well, that's great. Okay, so let's wrap it up. I'm out of time, unfortunately. So, and I thank you so much for being here. Jenna, who should contact you and how should they do it?
So founders in the women's health space who are, disrupting the status quo, who want to get attention and who want to get their products and solutions into the hands or vulvas, vaginas of women that need it most. So they should contact me and all the usual places. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on the internet. If you don't know how to figure out how to contact me, you probably have bigger problems.
All right, just 1 second here. I'm making a note because I'm pretty sure that is the first time either a vulva or a vagina were mentioned on this podcast. So in case anyone ever asks me, the historian of the podcast, I might need to know. And Jenna, Brooke, rather, I'm sorry. How about you? Who should contact you these days, right? And who would get the most out of that, engagement and with you, and how should they do it?
So founders of startups that have investment, so they're either PE backed or have their first round of funding, or presidents and CEOs of franchisors or mid-market brands. Those are my sweet spots. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Brooke Janousek.
All right. Both of you, thanks so much for being here. This went in some directions I didn't anticipate. So good to know. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, both of you.
Thank you.
All right. And thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next episode. Next episode is 67. Wow.